All right, hello everybody. Today I've got something for you about diversity policy. So, uh, you know, what kind of brought this idea on was a video by Arch called "Podcasting Has a Diversity Problem." Now, I like Arch and I like his content sometimes. I don't play a lot of tabletop games, but I feel like I learn a lot about how that industry is going from him. And generally speaking, I think his takes are usually pretty good. Uh, he's very low on the authoritarianism scale, and I kind of like the way that he usually argues. He's pretty fact-based and tries to bring things together in a meaningful way. So in this recent video, he makes a very strong case about how diversity policies are failing. He talks about how the public is increasingly seeing that, things like affirmative action and diversity requirements, quotas, etc., are being seen by the public to be more trouble than they're worth. You get worse results, you get these huge costs, and the actual improvements in, so-called diversity are pretty limited, actually. He talks about how these requirements are even kind of failing to get the desired result in Norway, where they're even double-sided, right? Kind of looking to produce more female programmers as well as more male nurses. They're still not creating the intended result, and the costs of maintaining these policies are quite high. Basically they're trying to push people into places that they just don't want to be. And, it's not doing a very good job of creating like a new cultural, method of thought where people want to be in these places. You just end up spending a lot of money on bad candidates, basically. And in fact, at first glance, and I'm not an expert, but at first glance, the Norwegian programs seem to be way better than the programs in the US, like the ones that encourage women in universities. We need more women in universities. Women are already a huge majority in universities. We need more women in universities. So where Arch goes in his videos, he says there might actually be an opportunity now to get rid of these diversity programs. There may even be, and I'm kind of implying or inferring from what he says, but there may even be enough political capital in some jurisdictions to get rid of them. Now, here's the thing. Any good economist will tell you that there is a huge cost to discrimination in the market. What happens is you fail to hire the best candidates. You scare away some of your customers, not just the ones that you discriminate against directly, but you can also have second-order effects where people don't like the fact that you're discriminating against random people as customers, and they decide to not be customers either. You reduce the viability of your business, its profitability, and these effects are not disputed among good economists. They all will tell you, hey, if you're preventing this person if you're, deliberately choosing to not hire this person because of this characteristic and not because of how good they are at the job, or if you're trying to scare away this particular group of customers, your business is going to do worse than it would if you didn't do that. And that's fair enough. The thing is that if we have the political capital to get rid of diversity requirements, as I'm kind of inferring from what Arch is saying, then maybe what we should do is try to take them out entirely, as well as barriers to entry. This is a golden opportunity to knock big corporations off their pedestals, right? Enable competitors to rise up and kind of take some of their market share. These big corporations will still probably do diversity and take those losses for PR reasons, right? And in fact, some of them might do it not for PR reasons, but just because they're so slow to adapt to new market conditions that they are unable to, kind of start hiring the best people. They have this kind of entrenched bureaucracy that's keeping them in a bad policy. And in fact, this would be great for knocking, would-be monopolists like Games Workshop and bait-and-switch grifters like Trench Crusade down a peg and create some competitors that can actually do some good in say, the tabletop industry, right? Despite the fact that economists will tell you that hey, if you get rid of these requirements, and because the problem is that when it's a requirement, right, every business is stuck following that requirement, and so the loss in profitability, the loss in viability happens across the industry, right? But if you get rid of those entirely, then some of these groups will decide to keep doing it and do worse, and other groups will simply hire the best people, the most qualified people that they can get, and they'll do better. Despite this very clear economic argument that just get rid of it, get rid of the meddling, Arch actually finishes with a clip like this.
Yet again, why we really do need some actual regulations on this. I know, the state ruins everything it touches eventually, but listen, the private corporations are doing a pretty damn good job attempting to ruin it to begin with.
Now, he's kind of talking about having the government do something else. I suspect that what he means is that he wants the government to kind of ban diversity programs as a whole. But I think it's way better to get the government out of this situation entirely, to take the thumb off the scale wherever it is here, especially if we have the political capital to get rid of the requirements. That requires less political capital than getting rid of the requirements and then also banning having requirements as kind of I want my business to act this way. Plus, it allows GW and other big corporations to continue to make the mistake of forcing diversity rather than simply going for the best candidates. Moreover, if you take the government out of an area, you prevent them from meddling. If we tell them that diversity requirements are banned, what will inevitably happen is that the definition of a diversity requirement or diversity program will be changed in such a way that it will make things worse in the long run. The fact is that if we just get rid of these requirements and we just wait a little bit, we'll actually get a better result than if we continue to try meddling. And it's tempting to meddle when you have, a couple of votes on your side, but if you get rid of the control in principle, it's a little bit harder to bring it back up and recreate it. Bottom line is this: it's very easy to want to use the state to get your desired results faster. But if it's a result that the market will provide on its own, demanding government intervention is going to make you look impatient and short-sighted, and maybe even a little bit stupid.
40 seconds, but I want it now!
So my argument is get rid of the intervention entirely if you have the political capital to do so, and don't try to force companies that you want to knock down a peg to take policies that will make them still remain profitable and viable. That's what I got for you for today. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good week, and I will see you next time.